Okay. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join in the session today as part of the Festival of Learning with a focus on AR on iPad. This is my story. It's all about using AR in place of a face-to-face learning experience. My name is Lindsay Stuttard. I'm a digital teaching and learning specialist with about 17 years in education, and I am a member of the ADE group of 2019. Just some housekeeping. As I mentioned before, this is being recorded for those that cannot attend. Please do use the chat for questions and feel free to share with the hashtag Festival of Learning and hashtag AR on iPad. And please do tag me as well at Lindsdive85 so I can see what you take away from this session. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. So this is my...
Hi, Lindsay. I see the chat window being disabled.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The chat window is disabled.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's try again. Okay. So I began my journey with augmented reality about 2 years ago. I had first witnessed it as part of the ADE festival, the ADE session that I attended the Institute in 2019 with the use of an app called AR Maker. And I really got inspired to see the amazing things that you could do with augmented reality. At that time, there was a lot of pre-made content and not a lot of the opportunities for customization for teachers. And if there was, it was at a much higher level than I think most teachers were able to achieve or to reach for. So it really became a passion of mine in the last 2 years to find those purposeful connections between AR and education. It began very small, just adding different AR elements into things like videos that I was creating. Or making certain experiences for others to use in their classes. It then progressed to looking more at content creation versus content consumption and designing workflows for myself and for others to follow along with. And I've most recently branched out into creating and designing my own 3D assets using LiDAR scanning function, either on an iPad Pro or on an iPhone 12 Pro. Which has allowed me to sort of go into another level that I didn't think was possible before. So it's been a progression, and some of the things that I'll share with you today, you might already be familiar with in some of the items, and some of them may be completely foreign to you. So hopefully you'll learn from this experience and take away at least something that you could try in your classes. So if you've heard me speak before, I've always talked about the why and the how when it comes to AR and education, always finding what your purpose is. Why would you do AR and how could you go about implementing it? So for my story, I'm going to focus first on the why element. So this is how it came about. Our 5th grade students always do an end of year exhibition. It's the opportunity for the students to showcase a project that they've done in their grade at the end of the year. And it's the opportunity for parents to be invited in to hear their students share. If you've ever taught in the PYP, it's similar to the PYP exhibition, and it's always set up in the opportunity for parents to come and move between the students and hear all the great learning that's been happening. But because of COVID restrictions in the last 2 years, we weren't able to do this last year. It got completely scrapped and we weren't able to facilitate that for our 5th grade students. Additionally, this year, we weren't allowed to have any type of face-to-face interactions with parents. So we really had to think outside of the box that if we wanted our exhibition to go ahead, how were we going to facilitate that for our families? We knew that we wanted to share student learning with parents because that was the key of this all. We wanted the parents to see the progression that the students had made in their learning. We knew we wanted to showcase as well an example of a cross-curricular project, that this whole grade level gets involved and all the different subject area teachers get involved as well. So it's really a cross-curricular project with all the different subject matters coming together. And it is a great example of a whole grade level collaboration where everyone gets involved, teachers and students together. There's a lot of effort and a lot of input that goes into this. So we had a talk, myself and the head of the grade level, of what could we do? Well, we could keep it really simple. We could have students just make video. We could have students do a presentation, or we could make a Google Sites that every student would have a page on that Google Sites to share their project. Or we could just scrap technology and do something completely traditional. But we felt that we had the technology available and we have the opportunity available to really do something quite unique. And these methods that I've just listed here are missing a specific element. And what we wanted to make sure for our families was to make it interactive. We know that those methods are great and they do offer the opportunity to provide parents access to see their students learning, but it's almost as a passive user, that you're just having the information given to you, and you as the end user are not having to be as involved. So we wanted this to definitely be an interactive experience for parents, to make it as close to a face-to-face experience as possible. We wanted it to feel as if they were really there. So what could we do to make it seem as though parents were really at the exhibition and hearing from the students sharing about their learning? So we thought about, well, what do we need to include? If we're having students do this project, what do they need to make first? What are the requirements of the project before we include any kind of technology element to this? Well, we knew that the premise of this project was heroes, and heroes that are important to us. And these are people that have died or have passed on, or from long, long ago, that have a significance to the individual student. And so we knew that they had to create a timeline to document the life of the hero that they were researching. We knew that there needed to be photos, or if it was someone from very long ago, some drawings or paintings or so on, some sort of visual aid. And that needed to be combined with the research that they were doing on their hero. We also wanted there to be the opportunity for parents to actually hear from their children. So not just reading information that the children had researched and typed up, but actually hearing the children present that, to really give that, that interactive experience of being at an exhibition. And we knew that we wanted to have some form of representation for the students to be present in that moment. So we wanted to include a type of selfie if it was possible. And finally, we wanted a way to be able to share this, not just with our families of the students, but to the wider community. So what's a way that we could make this type of experience accessible to more people? So I've talked a little bit about why and how we were thinking about going forward. Now I want to address the how. I'm just going to pause for a quick second and let a few more people in. There we go. Okay, there we go. So let's talk now about the how. So how would we go about replicating this in-person experience? We had an idea of what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to tie in AR in some way, and we had a premise of the types of files that would need to be included as well. So we came about with this idea of creating an AR exhibition where the entire thing would be done through augmented reality, but populated with all of the different file types that the students were going to generate themselves. So I had two initial questions right away. Will it work? And will it be gimmicky? There's a lot of use of AR where some people will try it and go, yeah, okay, that seems fun. It got the attention of, the students or the families for a little bit, but it didn't really have the depth that we wanted. And I was also concerned on the technical side of, is it going to work? Will it actually technically be possible with the type of technology that we have? So I went into this knowing that there could be some danger coming up. And that was when we started our testing. We began testing for quite a significant period of time to make sure that this would actually work for what we needed it to do. We then also narrowed down what were the tools that we were going to have students use in order to facilitate making an AR exhibition. We were going to use Keynote for creating the photos and compiling the research. We knew we were going to use the Notes app for students to be able to share the files to them. We knew that we were going to use voice memos for recording the students' voices for their audio file. We wanted to use Poplet to create a timeline because it was very simple for our fifth graders to use and to make it look really engaging and inviting. And the entire thing was then going to be combined together in the app Reality Composer. So knowing all those tools ahead of time, we were able to trial and test the different export features and combining those with the AR element. So that sort of testing had to happen ahead of time before we launched it out to the students. And we knew that we wanted our students to be represented in some sort of way in the AR experience in the exhibition. So we had our students customize their appearance as a Memoji character and then enhance their body in whichever style that they wanted. And that Memoji would stand in for them in the exhibition. We also wanted to be mindful of the photo restrictions, that we couldn't have photographs of the students in a file that was going to be shared to a wider community. So the Memojis were a great option there to still represent the student, but also to protect their identity. So for example, Keynote was the great tool that brought together the research with the photographs that the students had done about their hero. It was a very simple way of being able to organize one slide at a time what information they needed to use, and then to simply export those images to be brought into the AR file after. So Keynote was a great tool to organize all of that. In our notes, we were able to put together an overall note file that had the AR in it and the explanation with the directions for the parents, as well as a YouTube video walkthrough of what Reality Composer was. So if they'd never used it before, hadn't heard it before, they would be able to then launch the YouTube video and then go through the walkthrough explanation and then go into the AR file. So that was really quite handy to have that directly available to students through collaboration in Notes. Poplet, if you've never used it before, it's a wonderfully simple tool for students to create these either thinking maps or graphic organizers. In this case, we use them for creating a really nice timeline. And every student had one of those that exported as an image that we used in the AR file. And finally, as I mentioned before, those Memoji characters, which it worked really well. The students had a great time being able to get creative. In some cases, they drew their body in Keynote on top of their Memoji character, which was wonderful. Or they might have gone into a tool like Pic Collage and actually found real clothing for their character to wear. So it was a great way of teaching the students how some of these different tools on their iPads worked, especially in ways that maybe they've never used before or had the opportunity to explore before. But also the opportunity for that student voice to come out, that they're representing themselves in their creation through these Memoji characters, which after looking at 80 of them or so, I mean, all these little personalities were coming out. So it was really a wonderful thing to see. Now, all of this was technically possible because of a few infrastructure elements that we have in place at our school. We do have managed Apple IDs, or MAID, as you can see there, for both the teachers and the students. So this made it possible to do a lot of the collaboration elements that we needed, especially if we had a student that was maybe off sick and needed a bit of extra support. Our students do have one-to-one iPads, as do our teaching staff. So that made it really easy to know that everyone was going to have access to the same information and the same apps and programs and so on. And because our students that did this exhibition are in our middle school, it's the policy that the devices do go home with them. So that meant that the sharing element to parents was taken care of because we could populate those devices with the necessary files, and it wouldn't require the parents to have anything extra at home, whether it's another device or them having to download software. They could view it directly from their child's device. And so that made it a lot easier to share directly to our parent community. And this whole process took between the months of March and June, from the initial idea to the testing phase to identifying the apps and programs we wanted to use, to then the asset creation for the students and the file creation. So I want to highlight that this was a well thought out, planned for process that did not happen overnight. And there were some pitfalls that we had to take into account. You know, if a bubble went down in the school and someone had to isolate, we did have to compensate for those types of things. But it was a lengthy process that we had to go through. And thankfully, I had a really wonderful head of the grade level, head of year, who was fantastic at keeping this all organized. We did use Google Suite for the students to populate a particular folder with the files that we asked them to create. And it also gave the students access in one easy to use place for things like the voice memo. If they've never used voice memo before, and we were now asking them to use that, we provided an example of what it would sound like for them. And we also provided them with a script that they could populate with their own information. And that was really quite helpful for the students to just have that one place to go back to over and over again. So it kept the students organized and it kept the teachers organized as well. Now, my task was the AR aspect and to do the room development. And what I mean by that is for this experience to work, we really wanted to set certain boundaries in our AR file for the parents, so that they weren't just wandering off when they were using their students' iPads and not having sort of boundaries or perimeters to work within. So the head of year and I developed the idea of, let's do a room. How can we create this as an exhibition room that the parents can go and explore? And so our initial design looked a bit like this, where you'd walk in, if you've ever been to a conference or a BET exhibition or something like that, your people are all at the different tables, they've all got their allotted space to present their information to you, and you just move along the paths and visit the exhibition areas that you're interested in. So that was really the inspiration for this type of design. So every student got a table and we would populate it with their files that they had created. So as you can see, this is a student example here. Those Keynote files, the images would sit on the table, just as if you had printed them out and laid them on there. We had their Poplet timeline, and we did add in one additional element at the end, which was a graph, a survey of results. And so it did sit very much as if it was in a 3D environment. The last thing that we added in was that microphone, which is a clip art from Keynote attached to a sign from Reality Composer. And the interactive element was that when you pressed play on the file and tapped on one of those microphones, it would trigger the audio file for that particular student to start speaking. And so parents could move from table to table and tap on the microphones for every student and hear them actually present what it was that they were sharing for their hero in the exhibition. So that was a really great interactive element we were able to layer into the file. But there was a problem. We did encounter a really big issue about 5 days before, and we had to do sort of a complete about face of what we were going to do. And what was happening is that as we were populating the students' work into that room file, we noticed that my iPad Pro was starting to struggle with processing the amount of media we were putting into it. And if I have an iPad Pro and it's failing to process this big AR file, there was absolutely no way that our students with 6th generation iPads were going to handle this at all. So we had to make a really quick decision about 5 days before this was supposed to go live to parents and not do one room. And instead, what we ended up doing was making 7. And there's a few reasons why we did 7 rooms. There are 7 5th grade classes, so every class got their own room, and we associated it with the particular color that's assigned to that class. So it meant that we had 7 files instead of 1, but it also meant that parents could choose to go between all the different rooms and not just explore the one big file. So they had a bit more choice of where they wanted to go and what they wanted to see next. And it made it a bit more manageable as we went through. So that was how we rectified that problem. So it took a total of 5 days to populate the entire file, which was great. It was crammed kind of in there at the end because we had to get in contact with some students that were isolating or were ill or hadn't completed certain things. But in the end, we did get it all fixed. And here's the finished result. Those little characters standing outside are the 12 teachers that were involved in this process. We thought it would be fun to have them standing outside, greeting the parents when they came in. And so that was our AR exhibition. Some lessons that we learned from this entire process. I mean, it started with just 2 people really having an absolutely outrageous idea and thinking, there's no way we're going to be able to make this work. We thankfully were able to make it work, and we managed to get 10 other teachers involved in the creation of this AR exhibition. So I'm incredibly grateful that the 2 of us didn't just keep the idea to ourselves and actually reached out to the rest of the team and got 10 more people involved. It really helped get the creation of the assets done very quickly. We recognize that new skills have been developed now, not just for the 2 of us who started this, but for the 10 teachers that were involved in the process, as well as the students. They learned a lot more about the uses of technology, how different programs work together, names of file types, and so on. So new skills really got developed as a result of undertaking this process. The confidence has grown tremendously, especially for those 10 additional teachers who got involved and helped out with the asset creation and the file collection for the students. Their confidence has increased when it's coming to use these programs and the iPad itself. And we've been able to help demonstrate the way that new connections are being made through the different types of programs that we make use of. So it's showing that they can be used in a different way. And that's been extremely helpful as well to our teaching staff. So the next steps. We will definitely be taking this type of technology and using it to replicate experiences like this. We have a big international community. A lot of our students are boarding students, or their parents are in other countries. And so we'd like to make use of this technology going forward so that those parents can still be involved in their child's learning, even if they can't be physically present, just based on where they are geographically. And it's also helped us set new targets going forward of goals for technology development and understanding in the classes with the teachers themselves. So if everything I've thrown at you in the last 25 minutes has absolutely terrified you, I don't think I can do this. I do have some resources I can recommend if you want to get started with AR in your class. Bit of shameless self-plugging here. I do have 3 books in iBooks available now for you to download. The first one, the purple one there, My Journey Through Augmented Reality, just really documents all the things that I learned during sort of my first 9 months of exploring AR in education. The second one really helped me in this process, which is building an augmented reality escape room. So it talks a lot about how to go through the planning process, and creating your own actual room to explore. And so that concept really tied into the AR exhibition that we did. And then for more early childhood or lower primary ages, exploring the alphabet with AR is available as well. I am also part of the ADE team for Create for a Cause, which we do publish books. We've done 5 so far that combine creative elements in the classroom matched up with particular charities. You can follow us at Cause Create, and you can download any of these books for creative ideas that feature video, photo, music, drawing, and AR as well. So I do write the AR lessons for some of those books for the Create for a Cause group. And thank you very much for joining in with me. I will now open it up if there are any questions at this time. So I'll just read through the chat. Let's see. So all the files were brought in one at a time. Every single file was brought in one at a time. So that's why it took a significant amount of time to collate everything at the end. Reality Composer now allows you to do this element of drag and drop, where you can have photos open and it's sort of hovering over Reality Composer. You can select a photo and you can drag it over and drop it straight into Reality Composer. So that process took a significant amount of time to do, but in the end, that was how we did it, was one at a time. So the files were actually shared into that notes, and we then invited students to collaborate on the note. So everyone had access to those Reality Composer file rooms. And the reason we did it as notes is if we had just airdropped the file to the student as Reality Composer, as a Reality Composer file, if they went in and moved anything by accident, there was no ability to reset the file. And so it was better to just do it in notes, whereas they could launch it from notes, it would open in Reality Composer. And if they made a mistake, they could just delete the file, go back into the notes and open it again. It wouldn't affect the original file. And that was just through trial and error of other experiences with AR that we thought that that was the best way. And so we invited students to collaborate on notes, but we didn't give them any editing rights. So they could only go in and view things, which was helpful. No, unfortunately, we can't do video files yet. I'm really hoping that at some point that we'll be able to have video files in Reality Composer. It doesn't seem like it's a possibility, although I have seen that Jigspace has just made that available for their pro accounts that they have. So I might be exploring that one over the summer. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. This will be made available as a recording in the ADE community for the rest of the ADEs that can't attend. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.